Recently, I've been working on a project to digitize my car audio magazines from the 80s, 90s, 2000s, and I thought, hey, I might as well show you guys the process that's involved with scanning these magazines, transferring them into digital files. Now, many of these magazines have address labels on them, so I use this heat gun. This is a very fancy heat gun. This one's around 200 bucks, but you don't have to get one that expensive, something around 28 bucks, or use your wife's hair dryer, or if you have hair, you can use your own hair dryer. All you need to do is heat the label from both sides, get that adhesive softened up so these labels should peel straight off. So let me show you how it works. Turns out the example I'm showing you here is like literally a worst case scenario. I didn't have this much trouble with hardly any of the other magazines I've done, but you can see here with a little persistence and some elbow grease and a nice heat gun and keep moving that heat that you can get these labels come right off. The majority of the magazines I'm working with here have glued bindings, so they're not stapled together. Some magazines are. So I have to use this industrial paper cutter, and I got the one from Vivor. It's around 135 bucks. I'll leave a link in the video description. What it's going to do is it's going to cut the binding of the magazine so that we can separate all the pages and easily put this into an auto feed scanner, which I'll show later in the video. So for example here, this device has a guide at the back, which I've already set. What's really nice about it though is it has this clamp. So you turn this wheel on the left side of it, you're seeing me turn it here. What it's doing is it's clamping the magazine and holding it into place securely before you let this large guillotine, really sharp knife down. There you go. It cuts off the binding. Then we can let the clamp released by unscrewing it, and there you go. Now in this case, sometimes the first couple pages will get stuck together because there's a lot of adhesive. So we will go back to the heat gun and remove that. But what I like to do is go through all the pages and make sure they're separated, because if they're not, it will cause problems when we get to the part of the scanning. So we'll show that here momentarily. First, let's get these two first pages separated. Easy enough. There we go. Let's move on to the next step, where we're going to get to the computer and the scanner. And again, I'll talk about the model here. You'll see it here in a minute, but first off, what we have to do is go through all the pages very carefully, separate them out, because sometimes either static or whatever will cause the pages to kind of stick together. Sometimes it's glue. The other thing I do is I go through and remove all these little reader service cards and some of these thicker pieces of cardboard which really aren't supposed to be in the magazine. They're just kind of extras. I take those out. So in this case, these are all glossy pages. I want to make sure they all kind of scan together. There you can see the last two pages were attached. So make sure they're separated. And then what I do is I stack them. And then in my case, I've decided I like to do around 40 pages at a time. So I'll usually split it out to about 40 pages. That'll be 80 pages total because it does front and back. Also, I didn't design this video to be fully encompassing, covering all the steps with the scanner and everything. You will have to learn how to use your scanner. But I like the Fujitsu ScanSnap IX1600. That's the one that I'm using here. It pulls the pages through relatively quickly and it scans both sides, and it does some other things as well. So I'm speeding everything up here just so you can see how the process works. On your computer, you will have to download software. It does come with the scanner, and that processes the pages and gets them ready to create your PDF. But again, I'm not showing every single step, just kind of an overall about how I go through doing this. So next, I'll get a stack of my next batch of 40 pages or so, hit the continue button there on the scanner, and what it'll do is it'll continue adding to that existing PDF file. That way we can have one file at the end for each magazine. The majority of these car audio magazines are between 150 and 300 pages. It depends on if they're directories or not. This is not a directory issue, so it's not that long. It's about 130-ish pages or so. So once we finish up, then we'll go to the computer, and the ScanSnap software will give us the option here to click Finish so that it will go ahead and do the compilation of the PDF files. Now what I typically do next is go ahead and name the file, put it up at the top. You can also choose the location where you want it saved. And then what I do is click on the next for the page down at the bottom on the left side. What this will do is it takes a minute because it has to kind of see all the pages, I guess, and process them. But what you want to do is you want to go through all the pages and make sure A, they're all there, B, they're the correct orientation. Sometimes they may be laid over, like in the landscape format, and you have to switch them over. Sometimes they may be upside down, and you just have to rotate them, but you can do that in the software here before we finish saving the file. Just kind of scan through it quickly. I hit the save button and it put into the folder. Double click on the item and here we go. Beautiful looking scan here, and everything is digital. So it's on the computer. You can put it on an iPad. You can put it on your Kindle, whatever. And here's the neat part. You can highlight the text. So you can search through the text, which is super useful for these old magazines. For me, for doing research, when I'm doing my videos, I love to find some information on specific models. So this is super, super useful. The next couple of things I'm going to show you are obviously optional because some people are just going to get rid of their magazines, but I want to keep mine. And, you know, I'm like, I did all this work, I cut the binding, but I still want to save the originals just in case I need to go back. So I use these clear report covers. I'll leave a link in the video description below. So all I do is just make sure the magazine is stacked and firmly put together. I'll put it inside of this report cover here. And then what it has is a plastic binding which goes over obviously the part where we cut off. And what it does is it not only protects the magazine, but it gives you a way to hold all the pages together. So this is super cool because this way you can keep your magazine, and if you accidentally missed a page and didn't notice it until later, you can always, you know, put it back in your scanner and get that extra page and add it into the PDF. So it's super useful. You can cut the bottom if you want to because it's a little bit taller than the magazine. I warned you guys, I am a super geek when it comes to this stuff, so I'm going to show you one more step that I use. It's these little boxes that actually store the magazines in those report binders that I just showed you. And again, I'll leave the link in the video description below. They're not super cheap, but they are good quality, and you can get them in 2 different colors. What I typically do is print off a label. That way I know, like this, for example, is 1997 Car Audio and Electronics. So I will have a label put on there, and then you can just put these on your shelf. And that way you've still got your originals. They're stored up nice and neat on a shelf. And you've got them digitally as well on the computer. Or you can check out the analog versions if you want to go back and feel the magazine. Hopefully this info was helpful. You guys have a good one.
You know how them sound waves go?
I realize some of you may be watching this thinking, wow, he spent like almost $1,000 between the scanner, the paper cutter, you know, all the different things he's using, the heat gun, etc. But you have to remember, I'm archiving a lot of magazines. Now, if you want to go cheap, you can use your cell phone. There's apps on iOS as well as Android. I like the one on iOS called Scanner Pro, and you can scan the pages by taking pictures with your cell phone, and it'll make a PDF as well. So that will work if you don't have the money and just have 1 or 2 magazines and just want to archive them. So that's something to think about if you want to save some money. Also, if you're watching this and you have a better way of doing this, or another way by using your cell phone that's a free app or something, please let us know in the comments below. That'll be helpful for everybody. Thanks again for watching. Big D, I'm out.